Here's what you will build by the end of this video. You'll have a complete knowledge graph of any repo you point at, a Claude Code that answers questions off that map instead of grepping blind, and a hook that auto rebuilds it every time you commit. All free, all open source. Let's get into it. Graphify came out a couple of months ago and it's already at 60,000 stars. What it does is let your AI coding assistant, it doesn't have to be Claude, but that's what we're using today, map your entire project into a knowledge graph you can query instead of grepping your files. Code, docs, PDFs, images, videos, all of it. So we point Graphify at any repo we want and it builds out a knowledge graph like the one on the screen. The reason we care is that once everything is mapped, Claude Code can answer questions about that repo far more easily. It's already clear how A connects to B, how B connects to C, and why those connections matter. Compare that to grepping through files, which is how coding assistants like Claude Code normally work. Rough analogy, but there's a difference between doing Command F and hoping you land on the right spot versus having a clearly drawn path of how everything fits together. Graphify gives Claude a map, grepping gives it nothing of a sort. And because of that, you spend fewer tokens to get more accurate answers. How big are the savings? Some people are claiming up to 70x. I think that's the high side, and when we do the demo today, you'll see it comes lower than that, but the savings are still real and significant. So how do we go from a code base to a knowledge graph that honestly looks a lot like a GraphRAG knowledge base? Are they the same thing? How does this relate to RAG? We'll get there. The work happens in 3 passes. Pass 1, code structure. This pass is completely free. Everything you see on the screen right now comes from pass 1 alone. It is deterministic, not AI playing guessing game. It literally walks the code and says this piece relates to this piece because that's how code is actually written. These are established connections, not interfaces. A tree-sitter parses your code files and pulls out classes, functions, imports, call graphs, and inline comments. It all runs locally, no LLM involved. Pass 2, audio and video. If your repo has video or audio files, this pass transcribes them into faster whisper. Once they're broken down into text, that context gets injected into knowledge graph too. Pass 3, docs, papers, and images. If your repo includes things like aren't true code, PDFs, documentation, images, whatever, they get handled here. This is where the large language models finally comes in and does the semantic analysis. Basically, what does this document actually mean and where should it sit in a larger graph? This third pass is the part that even without true embedding, comes closest to what RAG system actually does. Once all 3 passes are done, it builds the graph itself. The README goes deeper on the technical side, but here's all you need. It creates nodes, which are the little circles. Each circle is a node. Then edges, which are the lines between 2 connected nodes. Then communities, which are large grouping of similar nodes. On the screen here, you can see about 22 communities. That's an overview of how data gets extracted and turned into a graph. And remember why we want a graph at all? For Claude Code's purposes. It's a map, so it can answer questions faster. At this point, you might have some questions. First, what if there's no code structure? What if I'm pointing at a repo that's just a pile of markdown files I want to graph, and I don't want to go full RAG? Can I do that? Yes, you can actually turn it into an Obsidian vault through Graphify. We will get to that at the end. Second, this really does look like GraphRAG. What's the actual difference and when should I use one over the other? The biggest difference is embeddings. Graphify doesn't use any embedding systems at all. The second is the use case. Graphify is the best with code bases when you've got a big repo, new or the one you've been living in, and you want to figure out how it is wired. Graphify is perfect. GraphRAG, like Microsoft GraphRAG or anything, is better for unstructured material. Say you've got tens of thousands of PDFs or markdown files and you just want to ask about them. Imagine they're all policy documents and you're asking about what does the policy say about X? The answer could be buried anywhere across documents that aren't really connected to each other. That's where any RAG system shines. The line between the two is a little vague though, because like I mentioned on pass 3, Graphify can do a bit of that itself. In that sense, it's almost RAG light system. So that's what Graphify is, how it works, and why you should care. Now let's actually install it and use it for real. Installing Graphify is pretty simple. There are a few prerequisites and a set of install instructions in repo. If you're on Claude Code, make it easy on yourself. Go to Graphify GitHub link down in the description. Copy it, paste it into Claude Code, and just say, hey, install Graphify for me. If you'd rather do it by your hand, follow the steps as they're laid out. And again, Graphify is platform agnostic. It works with any coding agent out there. Once it's installed, the next question is how you actually use it. There are quite few commands, so many that you're not going to remember them luckily. Installing Graphify also installs Graphify skills. The skill teaches Claude Code how to use Graphify and which commands to use when you're talking with plain English to it. So my advice is skim the GitHub repo, get a feel for what's possible. There's a lot, but don't try to memorize it. Claude Code knows what to do. A few worth knowing though, /Graphify runs the whole thing on whatever directory you're currently in. Graphify Query and Graphify Explain are for querying the graph. They explicitly tell Claude Code or whatever agent you're on to consult the knowledge graph when it answers. Don't be lazy and freestyle it. Graphify Claude install makes it always on. Run it and it'll use Graphify to answer questions without you asking. It basically becomes a hook. There are other flags too, the Obsidian flag, which builds an entire Obsidian vault for you in one command and fills it with whatever Graphify produces. But again, this skill is installed anytime you're unsure what makes sense, just ask Claude Code, it'll understand. Here's the knowledge graph I built, and you can make out the communities, which are really just these clusters. Scroll in and you can see the nodes, the actual dots and the edges, the connections between them. Click a node and over the top right, you get its type, this one's code node, plus its community, its source, and its neighbors. But as cool as this looks, the visualization isn't the point. It is cool, sure, but the real value is that we've now handed Claude Code a map to the repo, and I can ask questions about it and get accurate answers back. So let's test that. We'll ask question that uses Graphify actually leaning on the knowledge graph, then ask basically the same question without it, where it just grabs for the answer, and we'll compare the token cost. So same question, 2 tabs. In the first tab, I'm gonna ask use Graphify, and in the second tab, same question, but do not use Graphify. On the Graphify side, you can see the skill load right away, then commands like Graphify Query firing off that question we just gave it. On the non-Graphify side, Claude Code spawns 2 Explore agents to crawl the codebase, and right off the rip, we've already built thousands of tokens between them. So the answers came out, both are correct, but non-Graphify version had to run those Explore agents. So we're looking at thousands of tokens there, plus another thousands for the main session call. And the Graphify version came and you can see it has used much less tokens cost. It is a significant saving. Now, fair point. Since the non-Graphify run has now crawled the repo itself, follow-up question won't be loop-sided. But because we've already built the knowledge graph, anytime we want to query it through Graphify, we skip that crawl cost entirely. That's the memory angle. We build it once and we can keep querying it cheaply. So if this is a living, breathing repo, what happens when you change it? Does Graph update too? Yes, the README spells out the workflow. Run Graphify hook install and it auto rebuilds after each commit. The rebuild is AST only, not API cost. It's just looking at what changed, what's now connected to, and rebuilding that part of the tree, all deterministic, all free. It also handles a team setup, 2 devs working the same repo in parallel. It deals with that too. So what you end up with is persistent but living map of whatever repo you want when you can hand to Claude Code for cheaper, more efficient answers. And like I hinted earlier with the Obsidian flag, you can do all of this against a repo that isn't code. It works a little differently, and we're actually going to cover that in another video where we go deep on Graphify and Obsidian and what that connection looks like. For now, just know you're not locked into code only. This is flexible tool. This is genuinely a cool tool when you look at the spectrum of these memory adjacent apps and plugins that can run alongside Claude Code and Codex. Graphify lands somewhere between Obsidian and the true RAG systems. And I think that's great. The more option we have, the better we can match the right tool for the job. You don't have to live in Obsidian, you're not always working in Markdown, and you don't have to spin up some huge RAG infrastructure either. This is a nice middle ground that's worth exploring, so let me know what you thought. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one.